Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DiFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by La Marzocco, who's been creating espresso machines by hand in Florence since 1927. And you know La Marzocco. If you've been in coffee for a while, that is the quintessential espresso machine. So many of us grew up with La Marzoccos in our cafes, and I think the industry has basically grown up with La Marzocco at the helm of the heart of the operation, the espresso bar, because they have a very dependable product that is very innovative and beautiful. Machines like the KB90 espresso machine with a straight-in locking portafilters. You've got the classic Linea profile. You've got the lever machine, the Leva. You've also got one of my personal favorites, the Linea PB, that has that classic profile of the Linea, but it also has the updated technology of today to give baristas the ultimate control over the shots. All this to say there are lots of different pieces of equipment that La Marzocco has for you to choose from. And you should reach out to them to have a conversation. Email info@lamarzocousa.com and go to their website, lamarzocousa.com, and see for yourself what they have to offer. I'm a huge fan of La Marzocco and what they've done for this industry and what they can do for you. So if you're in the market for a great espresso machine, reach out to lamarzocousa.com. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about our other sponsor, which is Rattleware. Rattleware has been in the background of many a cafe for decades. Rattleware has been doing this for a while. And you know what they like? They like being the thing that you can count on behind the scenes. That's what smallwares are. And that's what Rattleware is about. Rattleware.com. You can find out what they have to offer. And it is a lot. You're talking about pitchers and whisks and knock boxes and shot glasses and everywhere in between. These are the things that make a big difference, the small wares that just work for a cafe, and that's what brings them joy. And so I would encourage you, if you're looking for small wares that just work, you want to have confidence in them for daily use in your cafe, look up Rattleware at rattleware.com. Okay, everyone. Well, today we're going to talk about the distinction between what your baristas want versus what the business needs. And there are lots of things that your baristas want that the business needs. And the business also, by the way, needs your employees to be happy. And that doesn't mean that, employees just get carte blanche on whatever they want, because if I don't get my way, I'm not going to be happy. And if that's the case, then you might have a bigger issue of, having the wrong people on your team when you're battling petulance versus legitimate requests and needs of staff. But here on this episode today, I wanted to talk specifically about the way that we hire people and how we make a distinction between who has that it factor for the staff versus you and your business. So here's what I'm thinking about. Now, in terms of a client of mine, this is what inspired this conversation today. There is a feedback that we should be paying attention to when it comes to new hires, where we ask our staff, what do you think about this person? Okay. The person might come in and say, hey, I'm here for an interview with so-and-so, the manager or the owner. And what I love to do is ask the baristas, what do they think about this person? Because I do value their opinion, because they're going to be working with this person day in and day out. And it's important that there is some kind of a harmonizing aspect to it. And one of the things that we also speak about is removing bias from the way that we look at people. And what that means is, if I, as the owner or the manager, say, well, I really like this person, I just really like them as a person, and I conflate that feeling with then therefore they will be a good fit to be a barista or to be a member of the team. What I've done is I have listened not to reason. I haven't hired this person because they're a good fit for what the business needs, but I've hired them based on my bias because I like that kind of a personality, which often is the case. We hire for personality is what I hear all the time. We hire for personality. And I ask people as a follow-up question, what kind of personality and why? There isn't usually a really great answer. There's usually like this answer of, oh, well, we know it when we see it, which is not really a great strategy for hiring, I don't think. Which is why a lot of us, when we hire, often regret that hire because we hired based on ambiguous instinct and unfortunately some level of personal bias toward a personality type that we like, but we haven't taken the time to study what the actual needs of the business are. And most importantly, does this person align with the well thought out and articulated values, practical values of the business? And we'll link to some episodes that you can think about that values conversation a little bit more deeply, which is incredibly important that you don't just hire based on a couple of platitudes that you put up like the three rules or four values, and you don't really articulate what that actually means. You need to know, practically speaking, what an individual who works in your business needs to actually act like. And you need to know that, because then you can look at the person in front of you and say, does this person demonstrate the kind of personality and behaviors that align with the behaviors of somebody who works here, who will uphold those specific values? So, again, it's really important that we think of this a little bit more logically and base it on our values. And when the barista is asked the question, what do you think about so and so? It's kind of setting them up for failure in a sense, because they're not the ones interviewing them. They just have an first impression of the person, and they will necessarily base their impression of that person on their own bias about that personality. It's not necessarily that that first impression doesn't matter. I think it matters a little bit, but you couldn't therefore say, hey, our baristas really love this person, and because my baristas, they love this person, I should therefore hire them. Or it may be that somebody is working for you on a trial basis, which I have some issues with. We've had an episode about that in the past. But then this person is advocated for by the staff, not necessarily because that person is a good fit for the business, but because the staff kind of just like the person. They're funny, they bring snacks. I don't know what they do. It's more that the staff enjoys that person, but they're not thinking about, is this person in alignment with the values of the business, and are they a fit? They're not thinking about these things because, frankly, it's just not their job. And if you ask them their opinion, usually what you're going to get is an opinion based on personal preference for what will make my shift more entertaining, etc. Now, the exception to this, of course, is that you've got staff who are so aligned with your values that they appreciate a person because they add to the team in a kind of a professional sense, right? Not just a personal bias toward that person because I like them. That's not a really good reason to hire somebody. That's also not a really good reason to retain somebody's employment if they're not working out, in the sense that they're not delivering on the values of your business. So there's a difference between what your employees will say they want in a coworker versus what your business needs from a staff member. And you don't have to just therefore completely cut off any and all feedback from your staff, but you do have to take everything with a grain of salt and be willing to make the hard decisions, whether that means removing somebody from employment, even though your staff might be upset because that person is near and dear to them, but practically speaking, they're a terrible employee. This is not a social club. This is a business. This is a business that serves coffee, and we have to have people working for the business that are the right fit for the business, not necessarily the right fit for your employees. Just as much as I would say you don't want to hire people simply because you find them entertaining or you find that they fit with what you like in a person, but they're not a fit for the business. We call that nepotism, hiring for reasons outside of a professional reason. So all this to say, we have to make sure that when we're bringing people in, maybe we can find a sweet spot where somebody harmonizes with our staff, but that we are first and foremost looking for a fit based on the defined values, practical operational values of your business, the actions and habits and behaviors, character traits and qualities that you have thought through are necessary for your business to thrive, and that those things would be found in a person is the first thing to consider. Next, after that, bonus, your staff love working with them. It's always a good sign. It's not always the sign. It is not the only thing that you should be paying attention to. And there's a lot to unpack. And there's going to be a lot more there to unpack, maybe in a different episode. But we need to keep first things first and realize that you have to base things on a little bit more of a professional standard than simply a personal standard, whether that's from your personal standard or somebody else. And so I hope that makes sense and it helps you make better hiring decisions, better decisions around who you keep on the team if you feel reticent to fire somebody or put them through some kind of a accountability process because they are beloved of the staff, but they're kind of a thorn in the side of the business. Approaching this from that perspective without bias and simply basing it on an agreed upon standard of professional values at work removes the personal and allows you to make professional decisions that in the end actually benefit everybody. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and share these episodes on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. We are also on YouTube at Keys to the Shop, and you can subscribe and click the notification there as well. Thank you again, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break from Keys to the Shop.